Hi, I'm Zeph Thal with Cross Tactical. Today I'm here with Spencer Keepers at the 2013 Rangemaster Tactical Conference. He's presenting here. Spencer, why don't you just give us a quick background on yourself?
So, I've been carrying a concealed gun for literally all my life. I grew up in a interesting childhood. Way back then I realized that it was going to be up to me to take care of myself and defend myself if that needed to happen. Grew up there in Mustang, Oklahoma, went through high school, started working for the federal government, got into training, 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that, and really took to it. It was like something I had always wanted to do and never got around to. So I started training with a local trainer, Will Andrews, there in Oklahoma City. Really good guy. I'm an instructor for him. Then I started branching out into training with guys like Tom Gibbons. I've trained with, kind of all the big names. Tom and Steve Moses, Craig Douglas, obviously a big influence in me, and Todd Lewis Green, Mike Seeklander, Mike Brown at USSA. Just really started getting involved in the training part of that. From there, I started looking at all those programs, and I realized that there was a whole lot of similarities, but everybody had something different, and I kind of developed what I thought would be a better way or a different way to do things, and I've just started teaching that now. So.
Okay, very good. Here you're teaching a block on Drawstroke and
Correct.
The evolution of it. What's the importance of a consistent, concise Drawstroke for the person, the armed citizen, even a police officer? What's the importance of a good Drawstroke?
So when I come to these things, I look at and I like to go and watch people shoot, and that is the one thing I see people mess up the most. And I trained with a martial arts guy, a guy named Cecil Birch. Cecil's coach. Now Cecil's a black belt in jiu-jitsu and a great guy, but Cecil's coach talks about in his boxing, he still practices every day. He practices the jab cross. Well, if you equate that into the gun part of this whole self-defense scheme, that's our Drawstroke. That's what we need to be practicing. For the gun to do us any good, we have to get it from our concealed holster or from our duty holster to on target. We need to be able to do that quickly. We need to be able to do that consistently, and that round's got to be very accurate, very fast. And not only when we're standing square on the range, but if we're in a tangled miss in an ECQC class, or if you're in a tangled miss, if you're an officer and got a couple of guys on you that are trying to kill you, or if you're sitting in your church pew and something happens and you need to draw the gun and get it on the target from a seating position, or in a vehicle. Your Drawstroke needs to be able to work under all those different conditions. So like I said, that's the one thing I see people needing the most improvement on, and it's the one thing that I see most instructors, not all, but most, just kind of gloss over. If you can get your gun on target, fine, but you can do it a whole lot better and a whole lot more consistently with just a little bit of training. So.
Okay, very good. I've noticed that you carry Appendix and you actually make a holster. We'll talk about the holster here in a minute. But why do you carry Appendix? What are the upsides to someone who would normally maybe carry in a 3 or 4 o'clock position? Why would they want to switch to Appendix?
So I carried at 3 and 4 o'clock for years and thought, man, that was the way to do it. And I've introduced to Appendix carry by Todd Lewis Green, and I thought the guy was nuts. I mean, can you imagine where that gun's pointing, right? Once I got past that and I started looking at the mechanics of it and the advantages of it, there are just so many more advantages than there are disadvantages. It's forward to the hips, so it's really easy to get to. It's easy to get to with either hand. It conceals, honestly, better than a 3 o'clock holster, especially if you have to bend over. I can guarantee you, if you're carrying at 3 o'clock, or strong side, someplace on the hip line or rearward of the hip line, and you drop a pack of screws on the ground at Home Depot, and there's somebody standing behind you, you've got to do the little, bend down, knee down, shuffle to reach down and pick that pack of screws up, So they don't see this giant bulge of a gun point out that, oh, well, that's very easy to figure out what that is. With appendix, you don't have that. You can sit down with it. Amazingly enough, that's the question I get asked the most is, how can you sit down with that thing? Well, just like this. It's like I would, do it and cause pain to myself. It's far more comfortable. It's a real paradigm shift, but it's far more comfortable than 3 o'clock. When I teach my advanced handgun classes, I'll try and do some holster work from 3 o'clock to demo to the students. And oh my gosh, it just kills me to do that because it's so much slower. There's so much more motion involved in it. So that's some of the reasons for me appendix. And I talked about the Drawstroke being seated. Appendix makes that so much easier. You can just get on the gun and go. It's easier to get the gun if you only have one hand to get to it.
Okay.
And it's easier to get to the gun if all you have is your non-dominant hand to get to it. If something's happened to your dominant hand, it's really easy to get the gun with your non-dominant hand. That's some of the benefits to it.
Okay, sounds very good. If someone, let's say, is considering appendix or hasn't even tried it out, would you recommend that they at least give it a try?
I would encourage you to try it because it really does take a little bit to get used to. You might really want to try and get a clear gun, or a dummy gun would even be better, just to get past the psychological point of having the gun there, kind of get comfortable with that additional weight and pressure there, before you really start relying on that method of carry. If you're a sworn officer and your department mandates that you carry it, strong side at 3 o'clock, you're going to want to spend some time and kind of soul search that to see if, while you're off duty or if you're undercover or whatever you're doing, that would be a detriment while you're on duty, if you would get kind of fouled up in where exactly my gun is. I haven't had anybody had that problem, but that would be something that you would need to look at.